It used to happen, not to that degree, but to somewhat that degree. Now, when a pharma rep comes to educate us about a new test, about a new medication out on the market, and they bring Panera, we have to sign a log that they now put out Sunshine Act-wise that we received a lunch.
Yep.
And someone in my Jubilee debate used that as evidence because like 50 to 60% of doctors have gotten a lunch from a pharma company, that 50 to 60% of doctors are biased.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if we're biased on $50, what is Gary Brecka biased on when he makes millions selling a $6,000 red light bed?
Yeah. I mean, like,
I don't know.
Completely different standard applied for no reason. Also, there's like nothing wrong with pharmaceutical companies paying doctors to prescribe their products, in my view. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like when you go to your car maintenance shop and they're like, oh, this new windscreen company makes excellent windscreens. Do you want to buy one? And you're like, oh, real talk though. Like, how does it compare? Like, honestly, it's a bit overpriced, but if you want really awesome dynamics of like evening light, there's nothing better. I wouldn't buy it myself, but it's great. Like, you're like, yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that insight. If your doctor is cutting you anything other than the real deal, your doctor is like just the Hippocratic Oath, right? In the places where it probably doesn't like to have had sex with. But if your doctor is like, pharmaceutical companies are like, hey, look, we have all these medicines. They're great. Here's a bunch of them. Talk to your patients about if they want to use them. I don't think there's a goddamn thing wrong with that at all. It happens in every single other industry. Like the person at your massage parlor is like, hey, we got all these new oils. And you're like, do I need these new oils? If they're a liar, they'd be like, of course. If they're not a liar, they're like, no, of course you don't need the new oils, but there's all these flavors and they do moisturize your skin. As long as doctors are evidence-based and appraising things fairly and sort of presenting you with a panoply of options, they're doing a goddamn great job. And like, how would they find out about like the best medicines if the pharmaceutical companies didn't come tell them about it? I know too many doctors that are elite at staying up to date. And I know too many doctors that are like, bro, did you stop learning things in 1982? And they're like, yeah, no, here's like penicillin or whatever. Like, okay, very well, thanks. So I think that trying to prevent all money from entering every aspect of life is an insane proposition that just goes directly against everyone's incentive. I think the thing that is like the number one thing that'll just fix all of this is massive transparency.
Well, that's what the Sunshine Act is.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. That's why I like it.
Just say to people what you've been.
But the problem is it only works for doctors. So when I work with Abbott and I get paid a huge sum to promote blood donation, so that God forbid Gary Brecka gets into an accident.
The vampire lobby is a well understood problem in the United States. Where does all that blood go, Mike? So for some reason the transparency ends right there.
So if God forbid someone gets into an accident, they have blood available.
Yeah.
Yet when Gary Brecka sells something or Andrew Huberman sells something, there is no act that we can see what they're being paid.
Yeah.
Like there was a recent episode on the Huberman podcast about peptides. Was he paid to do that episode? Is he collecting money from the peptide lobby, a website?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, the doctors interact more in payments with the government. I think that's why there's like a bigger transparency situation there, regulatorily speaking. Because like government doesn't cover your peptide costs. So they sort of care less.
That's why it's weird to me. Because doctors interact more with the government spending, so they require a higher level of scrutiny. They get a higher layer of scrutiny, and yet they're treated as if they're the shady ones. And the people selling supplements are the good ones and are honest.
I think the doctors being treated as shady, and their interactions with pharmaceutical companies being treated as shady, and pharmaceutical companies being treated as not even so much shady, but just downright nefarious, while in fitness influencers, their contracts with supplement companies and supplement companies themselves. So like have doctor, fitness influencer, contract with pharma, contract with supplements, and then pharma company or supplement company. To me, there's like almost the same dynamic at play. And like pharmaceutical companies are just like, they actually make, in some sense, really effective supplements that are validated by for sure science, but they're like so powerful that they also have some downside risks. Or like if you overdose on ashwagandha, because it kind of doesn't do anything to begin with. It does a few things, little teeny things. Then like you eat 3 times the ashwagandha dose, probably nothing's going to happen to you. With pharmaceutical companies, they get a lot of trouble for like being dangerous because they're actually super powerful. And so to your point, I think it's like anytime people who are fitness influencers who do supplement contracts, people who are running supplement companies or representing them, every time they talk smack about doctors and pharmaceutical companies, I'm like one of two minds. One is like everyone can make a valid critique. And sometimes they make really valid critiques. But it's also like, just take a little mirror, point it back at yourself, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm peddling something with like 1/10 of the research volume. I'm asked for no transparency whatsoever. I'm allowed to make oodles of money, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, look, my favorite thing is like when supplement company people are like, farmers after the money. Like, I'm sorry, what? Do you do your
Well, that's why
job
in
for
that
free?
clip I just showed you that Gary Brecka goes, pharmaceutical companies have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. Well, who does Gary Brecka have a fiduciary responsibility
He
to?
is the shareholder.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So to himself, and also, but there's ostensibly other shareholders of a supplement company. He has a responsibility to them as well. And so the supplement company actually, like, these are all privately owned companies, and typically equity is split on more than one person. That means they're shareholders. And it's funny enough, like, if you're a pharmaceutical company, your shareholders include like a huge fraction of the United States. You're a massive publicly traded company, so you have to honor the wishes of the people of the United States. Some massive fraction that a private small pharmaceutical company or supplement company just doesn't have to offer at all of that stuff. And also that's a whole other thing of like profits versus people. It's not a versus. Like the profit motive is the most powerful way to organize society to do good ever tested. Are there excessive profits we should be concerned about? Absolutely. Do we want to like shoot the goose that lays the golden egg? Are you crazy? Like it's people versus profits. Like, man, everywhere they allow a lot of profits unregulated, the people are doing much better. Last I checked, Sweden was way better than North Korea. And North Korea doesn't allow profits at all. And Sweden's like, yeah, just pay your taxes and you're good to go. Just make as much money as you like. It's that whole thing there, that skepticism of pharmaceutical companies because they make a lot of money. It's like, are we skeptical of like Dell Computer for making a lot of money, making Dell computers? And so you don't want to buy one because like, I don't know what's in this laptop. They sure make a lot of money making these things. Like, what? But it's a good laptop. Like, right. So well, shut up and buy it.
There is this new push against success that has happened on social media where if you create something and you make money, it's like, why didn't you just give it to society for free?
Yeah. It's it's very easy to refute because the amount of motivation that people have to do amazing things at their own expense scales typically with the amount of reward that they're going to receive. Like if I'm told that if I do a real good job at work, I can make 10 times the money, I might do crazy shit. Like let work eat into the rest of my social life, stay long hours, wake up in the middle of the night scribbling down ideas. If I am not allowed to make any more than a very nice but small amount of money at work, then my probability of going overtime for work falls super low. And I'm not a part of the story. Who cares about me? Like rich people are rich either way. The real question is, what effect does incentivizing people with mega profits have on the output of society overall versus if we can't clamp those profits down? It's like modern economics hasn't debated this point for like 70 years. Like if typically you allow a high degree of free enterprise, you allow people to collect huge upside profits, they just innovate like crazy and the standard of living rises and they invent tons of medications, they invent tons of technologies, they make processes that typically were reserved for luxury people normal. Like the people that like founded and ran Uber and Lyft and all these car companies, like they brought the black car to the regular person because just anyone can afford like an elite car to come pick them up and drop them off. That's crazy. Do you remember in the 90s? That was like only rich people could do that. Like rich people, like the guy who owned the mansion could maybe do that. Now everyone does it. Like what pushed these Uber people to do this sort of thing? Like, they have like a multi-billion-dollar company. So passion, inspiration for sure, but also like a concomitant reward that like, don't worry if you toast your life for all of this, we'll give you so much money that it'll be worth it. That's a big deal. And again, those people, they get money either way. It's not a concern for them. If we set up massive incentives, how good is it for people? And imagine we had an Olympics where we paid no one any money for it. We didn't give out medals because it was kind of gross to rank people, and we didn't pay for people to show up. How much of the beauty of competitive sport and humans at their best would we see at the Olympics? Bro, there wouldn't even be an Olympics. It would be like some in Cincinnati, Ohio. No offense, Cincinnati's a great place. And no one would care about it. But because the Olympics are given so much praise and so many gold medals and money and contracts and sponsors, then man, athletes will grind their entire lives for one medal. We want to see that because we benefit as consumers of entertainment sport. And so just the same way, the profit motive in medicine, I think is like an enormous thing. We want as much profit in medicine as possible. We want as little abuse and dereliction as possible. That is absolutely tractable to get both of those things at the same time. You want the upside to be like, hey, make amazing medicines, make healthcare better for everyone, make it cheaper and make a fuckload of money. And also no abuse, no fraud, none of that. That just requires really good regulation, minimal but good regulation, massive transparency, and a lot of really good oversight, and then you liberate the free market to do its thing. I think you start clipping the wings off the free market, you get like more and more to France, and then you keep clipping and you get more and more to Greece, and you keep clipping and you get more and more to Latin America, and you keep clipping and you get to North Korea at some point, which really sucks. And
what's your take on the fact that when Jonas Salk was asked why he didn't patent the vaccine, he said, you can't patent the sun, so I shouldn't patent the vaccine, and he let forego billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Do you think we should lean into that kind of approach?
So patents are a like really great example of a trade-off system. If you have a situation where you say you're just not allowed to patent any idea, everyone who's creating new medicines knows that as soon as they publish the IUPAC chemical structure, someone's just going to take it and just produce it at scale. That does reduce people's incentives to make really big strides towards really innovative cures. On the other hand, if you have a patent structure that says, like, the SEAL teams will shoot everyone to death in your lab if you try to make this drug for cheaper, and the patent lasts for 50 years and it's exclusive to one person or one company, then you're really enhancing the kind of innovation that goes on a different route and makes a different kind of drug. But you can take a whole drug class and deaden all of the innovation because you just patented the entire drug class or something. And so patent law ends up playing at a trade-off between these two extremes. And I think there's probably, in many cases, some kind of legal structure that goes somewhere down the middle. I don't want to say that.
Patent homeostasis, if you will.
Yeah, sure. And that could be dynamically adjusted and stuff like that. Yeah. One of the most important things in encouraging innovation and encouraging mass scale production is dependable laws that are like a long time scale. So like if you tell someone, look, you get a general patent for this drug for 3 years. After that, you get some kind of way more diluted patent for another 3 years. After that's out, it's just like anyone does their thing. But all the companies that make drugs know that ahead of time. They can make decisions on what drugs to make, what drugs not to make, et cetera. I think that what's happening now with biotech advancement powered by AI makes patents like kind of almost irrelevant because the pace of innovation is so insane that like you can patent, like imagine patenting semaglutide, right? Like, okay, well, tirzepatide's just better in every conceivable way. Your patent would have been cool for like 3 years, and then tirzepatide comes out, and everyone's like, I don't give a shit, your drug is patented, I'm never buying it. You're like standing there with this patent that means nothing. So I think patenting is getting more and more pointless as we go on, but some degree of insurance that someone can't just copy your drug might have some element of kind of...
Yeah, my question wasn't about the patent as much as it is Jonas Salk created this wonderful thing that changed humanity in many ways. And yet it wasn't with this capitalistic mindset of I'm grinding because I want the financial reward.
I'll say something really up because this makes for good clips. Jonas Salk himself delivered 0 vaccines to 0 people. Industrial capacity did that. Only pharmaceutical companies could do that. Only scale can do that. So the hidden heroes behind every vaccine that's ever saved lives are the people in the labs figuring out how do we make this at industrial scale and how do we close the delivery pipeline? Because like vaccines, you can't just leave them out in the sun and shit like that. You can't just put them in pills and have them just sit on shelves. So the people that do the logistics, the pipeline, all the dynamics of delivering that vaccine at scale and at a price that can sustain that infrastructure, man, they're the ones like, you know, having a great idea. Jonas Salk was a living deceased god. Like, there's no debate about that. But having a cool idea and making a cool molecule is dope. It's not the entire picture. And so I think when people make things for the benefit of all mankind and don't want money in return, I think that's awesome. If they want money in return, I think that's awesome. The only money they're ever going to get is the amount of money people are going to pay them. But I think it's also important to ask questions about like, well, how does that actually work in the real world, getting actual things to real people? Then there's a whole bunch of capitalist machinery that has to be plugged in. Otherwise, the thing just never happens.
I feel like whether or not he gets paid, those companies that are delivering those vaccines will ultimately still be paid.
Yeah. That's why the vaccines go where they need it, is because those companies get paid.
Yeah, like the only thing I'm trying to challenge for the sake of the conversation is the idea that people grind and work harder at work because of this financial incentive. But you're saying, and that they're grinding so much that they're giving up their social life in order to do that. Is that a net win for society, that you have less of a social life, that you're grinding harder, you're making more advancements, or is it better to have some sort of balance?
For society, it's a net win by like a huge fraction. For the individual grinding, is it a net personal win? It depends on how much they value being a beneficent force in society. If they are, then like, sweet, you're a hero.
How do we cultivate that?
Having people like want to do good for society more. Boy, am I not the expert on that. I'll say that.
Wow, that was a nice line.
Yeah, I'm an expert on almost nothing actually. Just to address the point, there's no valid claim to say that the only motive that makes people do good things is the profit motive. Plenty of people do really hard work and sacrifice for society without any profit motive. the profit motive is just a massive ROI, it is a huge average uplift to how much actual real good things get made in the world, in part because it fuels motivation, inspiration, persistence, in part because it like smooths out the incentive structure from one corporation to another to another. If you have a profit motive, like it's really easy to get the pipettes and the syringes and all the autoclaves and everything all in one place. Without the profit motive, that shit is basically like almost impossible. So, and the profit motive costs quote unquote society, like, whatever average of 7% per year that is the net profit of the capitalist USA at this point. But the benefit has been calculated by various economists to be like orders of magnitude higher than that. And so it's kind of like, okay, so profit on average is great. That doesn't mean every individual only acts in profit. Some people will just like, for nothing at all, will grind away all their lives. Mm-hmm. How do we encourage people to do more sacrifice? I think one way is liberate the economic system so they can get paid up the ass. If you know that if you become an NBA player and you make like $100 million over a career, sure, it does not hurt your chances of having hoop dreams. If you want to become a person who creates medicines for people in the third world, and you also know there's an option there that'll make you a 100 millionaire, my God, like you are way more likely to do that on average or really persist at it than otherwise. So I think first of all is like making sure that people do good for society. There's some way to monetize that so they get paid. The other way is maybe having a discussion, and I do this on like my Mike Israel YouTube channel, which is like philosophy and progress and stuff like that, is looking at the world more like one giant team, one giant society, one giant civilization.
So like as a globalist.
And being...
Do you consider yourself a globalist?
Well, I'm Jewish, so of course a globalist. And I'm relatively wealthy, so obviously I'm actually technically a lizard person. Okay. I pulled my skin off. It'd be weird, the lights, the lizard skin, you know this. You're also a lizard person. The skin doesn't have lights. So there's a term globalist. I'm not entirely sure. It's just such a pejorative. I'm not sure what it means in technical terms. But what I would say is I consider myself a secular humanist, which means like, I think if there's like an African girl about to get clitoridectomied, I have a real big problem with that. About as big of a problem as I have of some girl in the United States that's about to get clitoridectomied. And I think that like cultural relativism is a beautiful thing that lets us understand cultures in the perspective of like, well, actually these people eat with their hands and that's totally fine. And eating with a hand versus fork, it's just trade-offs. It's not really a clear winner. And so that allows us to appreciate cultural diversity. But there's also some things some cultures do that are like probably just wrong, and we should probably stop them from doing it. Like the Taliban does not allow the education of females. Like, who's for that? And so I think that seeing all humans as worthy of the same rights and opportunities as everyone else the world over means that once we understand that, we know that working as individuals towards benefiting all of mankind can be something that other people go, man, you're doing the greatest thing ever. As opposed to working for your city, which is awesome, or working for a corporation, which is great, for a state, for a nation. I think working for all of humanity should properly be not this thing that leftist people brag about doing, but sort of don't do. I think it should be a thing that most people are like, yeah, this is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
The reason I asked the question is we just had a firefighter on the show, and he was telling us about the pricing dynamics of being a firefighter. And when he was entering the field, how little people were hiring, despite the fact that they were paying for their own education in order to become paramedics, firefighters, and they were getting paid $35,000 a year. And I'm thinking, where are the incentives in society where you can work for an insurance company, plug in some numbers, versus you're running in and saving humans and giving them help medically when they're dying? You're getting paid the least, less than a Starbucks barista. So like, where are those incentives coming from? How do we fix those?
How can I say this in a way that's not politically incorrect? When
I feel like that's the question in your mind
all the
before any answer.
There are answers to these questions. They don't always land really well. Mm-hmm. So the number of firefighters determines in part how much you're going to pay each firefighter. Because if you're a firefighter to be and you get too persnickety about being paid more, we just go to the next guy. But if you're working in an insurance company and you're like a brilliant person who does like actuarial science, they can't just go to the next person. The next person has another job and he's getting paid $500K already. He's not going to leave. He's not moving from Cleveland to New York to do your job. So
well, the reason they can pay them more is because they're making money off their labor. No one's making money off a firefighter saving someone in a burning building.
The government is. So the government collects taxes from people. Part of that tax money goes to pay firefighters.
But if the firefighters are more effective, the government doesn't make more money. If you're a barista and you make more money for the business.
So potentially there's a scheme there to get insurance companies to pay firefighters more, because the insurance company save a shitload of money when the firefighter stops the damage or prevents the damage from spreading beyond a certain tiny point. So the city also is involved in taxing your building. It would save some money in some sense if your building didn't burn down. So really it's about, you're really asking a question that's very interesting one of how do we increase the profit motive in the firefighting situation? And that may very well be like there are realistic ways to do that. One of them is to allow firefighters to be paid by insurance companies more directly, for example. The other thing the question to ask is like, firefighters are all heroes, but they have a very glamorous job in the literal sense of like, they're the people in the red coats that go do the saving. There are people doing jobs that you don't see that are way less glamorous, and they save at least as many lives. So the person that designs the like nozzle clipping system for fire trucks has by proxy probably saved like 10,000 people. Any one given firefighter in their lives may save 100 people. But that guy goes to work in some engineering little office building and he just does this all day long, and no one ever thanks that guy for his service, even though he's saving just oodles and oodles of lives. And there's a guy who works on industrial sealants for cans that allows the price of canned goods to be 5 cents lower because it lasts longer, who's technically saved like 10 million people from starvation. You'll never hear his name. There's all these people, and the way they're paid is generally in the economy one of two ways. One is government fiat, and the other one is supply and demand. Supply and demand tends to pay way more fair and actually allocate money to where real humans with dollars think it is best spent. Now, real humans voting isn't the ultimate arbiter of what is good and bad for society, because real humans get it wrong. For example, real humans value elite entertainment more than they value like functional institutions. If that wasn't the case, we would be paying nobody in the National Basketball Association that much money. We would be paying politicians a whole lot more money. You actually want to pay politicians a lot of money, because then they're insanely incentivized not to screw up. When you pay politicians rounding error money and you just like pay them with vibes, they do things on vibes, which is no surprise. So trying to marginally alter a system so that the profit motive is more visible and thus gives the people doing the good work as much money as possible is generally a good idea. But I would also say it's by no means clear that firefighters are underpaid. It's not clear to me that they're over or underpaid. I would have to see like actual statistics on like, because you're like, you say the human lives are actuarially counted as like, I think $10 million or something like that. And so you can actually do a calculation of like how many human lives / property is the typical firefighter saving? How much are we paying them? And there would be some amount that would fall out of that.
That would be a pretty dark calculation to make.
People do that stuff all the time. I wouldn't want to be in that business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so that we don't get too far off topic, because we tend to do that.
Sometimes.
For some reason on this podcast, it's like maybe because I don't have note cards, it becomes a disaster where we
You're
start talking about
host.
something.
I'm just going to say.
No, I actually agree with you. I wish I was better with note cards or teleprompter. Like I've gone on other podcasts and I'm like, how do they stay so organized?
They're so organized. They even have an iPad.
I need to invest in an iPad, but you know, the cost these days.
Mike, it's tough times for all of us.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the revolution. This anarchy that you're starting here.
It's like a very much French Revolution type of revolution. There will be blood in the streets.
What is that? What is the difference between a French Revolution and an English Revolution?
The French Revolution, so the American Revolution happened like once. It was bloody, but organized. And then once the government was ascended, it was kind of super stable and then led to the entire United States. The French Revolution, from my understanding, went on a substantial amount of time and cycled through a bunch of people they thought were going to do a good job, but didn't. Going to do a good job, didn't. They just took them to the guillotine all the time. Bloody, messy, resulted in
that's what you're
cool stuff.
For.
Oh yeah, just
nice.
Chaos in the streets. That's really what most of the book is actually written in satanic Latin.
I got to say something critical of the book.
Please.
Can I?
Yeah, of course.
Be brutally honest?
No, be even more brutal.
Okay. For a book called The Aesthetic Revolution, this cover, I hope, is not the real cover.
It's exactly the real cover.
This is the least aesthetic cover ever, Mike.
Do you know how much creativity I had? And did you ever work with a real publishing company before?
There is no way. There's no way. This is what you landed on.
So we have,
how many words are on this cover, Mike?
I can't read to begin with, so I have no idea. But the shapes are nice.
There's 20 words. The shapes are fine, but Mike, I can't. This is a lot of words.
Look at that shade of green. So here's the thing.
Green is pleasing to the eye,
isn't it? It's like red. You hate the aesthetic revolution, but
and why is aesthetic get thicker? Is there a meaning behind it? I mean, that was
No,
had to have been a
fuck
conscious
no.
choice.
By who?
You.
No, I didn't pick this cover. So
You had no play in this cover.
so they
is this a real cover?
They sent, yes, it is. They sent 2 cover options.
Okay.
Because I told them, like, I want like a transformation photo of like a woman who looks like a blob on one side and a woman who looks her best on the other. And they're like, cool, your opinion's dope. You're the man at this, not that. Let us do us. And they're like, here are the 2 cover options. And they look roughly the same. And I sort of picked one because it vibed a little better. And that's it. This is like a book you would see at the airport. They all look like this now, man. This is I have no opinion of this whatsoever.
You have an opinion on it.
I just don't know enough about graphic design.
Okay. Forget graphic design. As a human, you look at this. You're a master at aesthetics. What is the aesthetic rating of this cover?
I don't know the comparator.
Harry Potter.
I've never seen Harry Potter.
You've seen the Harry Potter
I've never seen
cover.
the book. I don't hang out with people that.
Sam,
nerd.
get the
I'm
book.
kidding, it's a joke.
Do we have a Harry Potter
Get
book?
Harry Potter out right now.
Look,
Harry Potter's a magical mystery of fun.
I just look. You make thumbnails, right?
I don't.
Oh, you don't.
Never.
Okay. I try and aid in the process of making thumbnails.
That's good. Same.
Everything is a choice. So I'm curious why why is fitness large?
Yeah. It's just graphic design kookery.
But you keep saying graphic design. I don't understand. This is text design.
Yeah, whoever did that at the publishing company did a great
I
job.
want to interview them and ask them
Please.
what were these choices.
Yeah, they just like, this is what they do. Yeah. Yeah. It's a trip, right?
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so the aesthetic revolution, embracing vanity and the future of fitness to unlock your healthiest self. Tell me what that means.
So people typically look at vanity as a bad thing because it's often a bad thing.
That seems logical.
Yeah.
So
But
far.
it's not always a bad thing. And there's a way to understand vanity that if you lean into it, what you end up saying is, okay. What does it look like if a person cares about their appearance and tries to make their appearance in body and face, skin, hair, the whole thing? What does it look like if they try to make it better? And is there a way to make your appearance better that will make you feel happier about how you look? And at the same time will enhance your health and longevity and wellness? And the answer is absolutely categorically yes. As a matter of fact, most of the things you do to enhance appearance that are not either pretty extreme or totally insane are really, really good for the rest of you. And so we have this kind of juxtaposition in gym culture, or this like almost like a false dichotomy. And it is one in which you're trying to get people to go and be physically fit and active and healthy. We're trying to get all of America down to a body weight that's not killing them all the time. We're trying to get them more muscle. We're trying to get them more active.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get them to feel good about themselves as humans, right? And at the same time, we tell people like, well, you don't want to train for vanity. You don't want to diet for vanity. You know, don't lose weight because you want to lose 20 pounds. Lose weight because it's going to make you healthier or fitter. And
That seems logical.
It's super logical. And the vast majority of people just never resonates with them.